For those of you who don't know, street epistemology is an approach with the intent of having people to reflect on how reliable their ways of coming to knowledge are. And it's a very effective approach. And in this clip that I'm about to show, we have two Christians. This Christian man that you're looking at now is going to ask Dr. John Lennox how best to interact.
I ask you, many of us have loved ones who are skeptics,
yes,
who claim atheism, and who think they are thinking. And I don't mean that in an insulting way,
no.
But I have engaged that several times, just asking questions to help them take the next step in their thinking. What advice would you give us who have been praying and loving and seeking to give reason, but to do it in a gentle and respectful way? What would you give us, and perhaps to some of our loved ones who might be listening in?
Before John answers the question, I want to speak to my Jewish and Muslim friends, and I'm sure some of you have loved ones who claim Christianity, and they think that they're thinking. And to my atheist friends, I would say the same thing. There's some of you have loved ones who claim theism, and they just think they're thinking. And I don't mean to say that in an insulting way, but I think what John Lennox is about to say may help us have better conversations.
You've given, in what you just said, one of the best pieces of advice. Ask questions rather than give answers. And if you find yourself out of your depth, find a good video clip or a book and don't recommend it to your skeptical friend. Ask them to evaluate it. Because if you say, this is a great book, it'll really help you, well, people just immediately decide they're going to find out everything that's wrong with that book and really wipe your face in it, So simple things. And it's very important to get that relationship, Peter, dialogue. And what you want to do in the end is hope that they'll turn around after you've asked your questions and say, look, you seem to have real hope. Where does that come from?
Yes, I agree with John Lennox here. I think it's very, very important to set up a rapport, to build a relationship so you can have an honest, real conversation, and to start that by asking questions until they ask you a question back. I think this is great advice by John.
One of the simple things I find with people, not so much with people we know well, but people we meet for the first time, is keep asking them questions until they ask you one. That's a hard discipline for some people, especially the Irish.
Yeah, it's very hard. I've actually challenged in my interviews people to ask me questions without making statements or comments. Just ask me questions, hear my answer, then ask a question based on my answer. It's very, very difficult, but it can be done.
But you'll find it develops a dynamic of relationship. We're so keen to deliver our message, and people are hurting. Some of our friends have deep reasons for not believing in God.
Yes, I agree with John Lennox here again. People are hurting, and some people, because of this hurt, have deep reasons to believe in God, or a God, or gods. So atheists, keep this in mind that there are a lot of people who have had way worse lives than you, who are suffering deeply, and this belief that they have has given them hope and meaning and purpose. And same can be said to Jews and Muslims. When you encounter a Christian, please be sensitive to the fact that a lot of these Christians have had deep tragedies in their lives and find huge fulfillment and meaning and purpose in their lives because of their belief that Jesus is God.
Many of my Jewish friends, for example, they've had many relatives gassed in Auschwitz. You can understand people like that. I think of the late Christopher Hitchens. I mean, what will you think of God if, as a 21-year-old, you had to go to Italy to identify the dead body of your mother who'd entered a suicide pact with a defrocked priest? These people are deeply hurting. And above all things, this gentleness and respect is very important, that people actually know and sense that we respect them.
Yes, great point. I think I'm guilty of this, that a lot of times the conversation delves into who is right. And I'm on a team and I need my team to win. I think the first step is to be completely as real as you can be, as honest as you can be, and have a real conversation, a real dialogue, which starts with questions, simple questions, to get to why do you believe and how did you get there? And is it reliable the way you got there?
And we really respect them. And that was one of the things my parents taught me. The person you're talking to is made in the image of God, whether they believe in God or not. So be very careful what they say to them.
Yeah, and atheists, the people that you're talking to are human beings. They have evolved the same way you have. And so you need to think about maybe there's a reason why they believe the way they believe because of evolution, and that concept, that attribution of something out there bigger than themselves to help them get through the day.
And friendship is one of the biggest things in all of this. But, you know, I didn't know very much. Sometimes people say, well, read thousands of books on answering Christian questions. No. You'll never get started. The thing to do is talk to your friends and say, look, what is the biggest hindrance you find?
Yes, I agree with John Lennox here. So when you're talking to believers, when you're talking to Christians, ask them, what is the biggest reason why you believe?
And then they will tell you, and you may not be able to answer it. In that split second, you've got to choose what to do.
Yeah, and Christians, when you are asked a question and you don't know how to answer it, please say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know.
And if you can't answer it, you say, you know, I've never heard that before, and that really disturbs me. Would you mind if I went away and thought about that? You will never lose face. You'll deepen the relationship. And then you come back and say, I've been thinking about it. I may not have got the answer, but this is the way I'm thinking. And you develop a dialogue.
Yes, my only caveat with this is what tends to happen that I have seen is that when a Christian says, I don't know, and goes away to think about it, guess what happens? They end up going to their family to seek help with these questions. They go to their pastors. They go to their favorite apologist. And they figure out an answer that suffices for them. So when they come back to you, Mr. Jew or Mrs. Muslim or Mr. Atheist, they're even stronger than ever. So I think this is why you have to get to the method of coming to knowledge first.
And it's mutual, because it consists of them beginning to open up about why they think and believe what they believe, and you getting the reciprocal opportunity. And it's in that dynamic of friendship, I think, that you'll find as you talk to many people, that's how they came to faith in Christ.
Yeah, I agree. It's that dynamic of friendship is what causes belief revision. I think if you're honest with yourselves and you think back on how you became a Christian, what was the first moment? It was probably in a situation, not always, but probably in a situation where you felt loved and accepted in a group of other Christians. I agree with John Lennox. Simple questions, simple answers are the way to go. Develop relationships, be honest. I think the whole industry of apologetics is to avoid this realness, avoid this sincerity and truthfulness, but rather come up with ways to make it fit. So Christians, if you want to have better relationships with Muslims and Jews and atheists, forget about apologetics, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the sense of getting people who don't believe the way you believe to come into the fold. It only works for you to feel better about yourself.